Check, check, check. Check.
Ma si parla dal microfono.
Check, check.
Allora, benvenuti a tutti quanti. Welcome everyone. And I'm really glad that we are hosting this really important event that is this assembly today. Credo che sia molto importante l'assemblea che stiamo ospitando oggi e siamo molto felici di ospitarla, è un onore. E adesso proseguirò un momento in inglese e poi farò il mio intervento in italiano, ci saranno i sottotitoli. So I wanted just to say that it's a very important time now to come here as youths and talk about militarization and war in the midst of a context in which war is becoming always more a reality that we are facing. And so I wanted to say just that we are on the side of all the peoples that are now facing the aggression of imperialism, of US imperialism, and we want to dedicate this moment to all these people. Dedichiamo questo applauso a tutti i popoli che stanno resistendo all'imperialismo oggi e in particolare a Cuba che sta venendo strangolata dall'imperialismo degli Stati Uniti e che sta resistendo eroicamente con una resistenza del popolo e del governo rivoluzionario e noi siamo sempre al loro fianco e anche in questa sede stiamo continuando a mantenere i banchetti in cui facciamo la raccolta fondi e di medicinali per Cuba. So also right now we are especially on the side of Cuba and its resistance, which is a resistance of the people and of the government and of the revolution. And now we keep even today a collection. We are collecting funds and medicines for Cuba, which we are sending there with our comrades who are going there to bring our solidarity in the various missions, including the Nuestra América Flotilla and Nuestra América Convoy. So I will speak in Italian and there will be subtitles. So now I will start the rest of my intervention without further ado. Dunque, inizio adesso il mio intervento sarà solamente in italiano e ci saranno i sottotitoli. Se siamo qui oggi è in risposta alla tendenza generale alla guerra che si è fatta sentire sempre più forte con l'accelerata imposta negli ultimi mesi dagli Stati Uniti, ma anche dai paesi dell'Unione Europea. Al genocidio dei palestinesi, in cui i paesi occidentali non solo sono complici, bensì attivamente partecipi e di cui sono pienamente responsabili, si sono aggiunti in rapida successione l'attacco militare degli Stati Uniti al Venezuela, il rapimento del legittimo presidente Nicolás Maduro Moros e della prima combattente Siria Flores, la guerra criminale di aggressione scatenata il 28 febbraio contro l'Iran e il Libano dagli Stati Uniti e da Israele, e l'assedio di Cuba socialista, a cui oggi gli Stati Uniti stanno negando ogni scambio con l'esterno, impedendo l'ingresso di carburante e medicine. Il popolo cubano, di fronte a questo crimine contro l'umanità, sta resistendo con forza. Oggi stesso a La Habana ci sarà una manifestazione di popolo contro l'aggressione statunitense, come se ne sono susseguite molte negli ultimi mesi. Oggi è anche una giornata importante per la solidarietà internazionale per Cuba, essendo il giorno in cui arriveranno il Nuestra America Convoy e la Nuestra America Flottiglia, a cui partecipiamo. Per questo vorrei dedicare questa assemblea a Cuba e alla rivoluzione cubana che resiste. La violenza estrema che l'imperialismo sta mostrando non è né incidentale né frutto di una follia collettiva delle nostre classi dominanti, bensì la via di uscita che il capitale occidentale ha individuato di fronte a una doppia crisi. Innanzitutto la caduta del mondo unipolare in cui spadroneggiava l'imperialismo statunitense occidentale, da cui consegue una necessità di imporre con la forza gli interessi imperialisti, sfruttando al massimo la supremazia militare e la capacità di proiezione nei teatri di guerra in giro per il mondo, per mantenere e riacquisire le proprie colonie. Inoltre, oggi l'Occidente affronta una crisi di accumulazione del capitale. La sua eccessiva concentrazione riduce i margini di profitto, ovvero sia ne rallenta la crescita. E ciò conduce alla ricerca spasmodica di nuovi spazi di valorizzazione, di nuovi modi di far riprodurre il capitale. Ed ecco che si va a tagliare la spesa sociale, a ridurre il salario reale, ma soprattutto a investire tutto nel riarmo, nella produzione di merci che si possono accumulare all'infinito e il cui fine è la loro stessa distruzione. Così il riarmo e la guerra diventano non solo strumenti dell'imperialismo, ma fine a se stessi. Questa strategia del riarmo per risollevare l'economia in crisi, con le commesse statali, una forma di keynesismo militare, viene rivendicata apertamente dalla nostra classe dirigente. Ad esempio il rapporto Draghi del 2024 prescriveva investimenti di centinaia di milioni nell'industria militare per rilanciare il settore industriale europeo. Gli investimenti di oggi lo hanno ampiamente superato, muovendosi sulle decine di miliardi. Ma in realtà si spingeva un po' più in là il rapporto, proponendo il riarmo e la costituzione di un esercito comune come lo strumento per rafforzare l'Unione Europea come attore geopolitico e implicitamente come potenza imperialista. L'utilizzo della guerra come strumento per rafforzare l'Unione Europea non dovrebbe sorprendere. La guerra è infatti sempre stata elemento costitutivo dell'UE. Basta pensare all'aggressione contro la Jugoslavia nel 1999. Le modalità di partecipazione a questa aggressione furono discusse all'interno delle trattative per l'introduzione dell'euro. Le politiche di guerra e il riarmo portate avanti da NATO, Unione Europea e governi nazionali non si limitano ad avere una ricaduta immediata sui popoli del sud globale, che subiscono tutta la violenza e la barbarie dell'Occidente imperialista, che si ritiene il faro di civiltà pur avendo ormai gettato la maschera con gli orrori colpiuti negli ultimi anni e più di ogni altra cosa partecipando a Gaza al primo genocidio in diretta della storia. A subire conseguenze immediate delle politiche di guerra sono anche le classi popolari e i giovani qui in Europa occidentale, dove lo Stato sociale sta venendo definitivamente smantellato per fare spazio alla crescente spesa militare e il capitale, alla ricerca di nuovi margini di profitto, sta divorando progressivamente ogni possibilità di un lavoro dignitoso e stabile, per la disperazione di un'intera generazione. La militarizzazione della società, sempre più visibile, comporta un restringimento consistente degli spazi di democrazia, poiché con la scusa della minaccia esterna da cui difenderci, si apre la caccia al nemico interno, con leggi repressive, operazioni di polizia. tutto in modo da prevenire o contrastare i movimenti contro la mattanza sociale, la guerra e il genocidio, come è stato il blocchiamo tutto di quest'autunno, che in Italia ha portato 1,5 milioni di persone in piazza a Roma il 4 ottobre. Per reclamare la fine di ogni complicità con Israele. La nostra generazione si vede quindi presentato un futuro di precarietà, guerra e devastazione. Il quadro è completato nel momento in cui per la guerra servono uomini e ritornano quindi le proposte di leva militare per reclutare i giovani a cui si sta levando un futuro e mandarli a morire e uccidere quei popoli che, al di fuori del primo mondo, decidono di costruire un proprio futuro che non sia asservito agli interessi dell'imperialismo. Ma i giovani hanno dato un netto segnale di rifiuto. Le oceaniche manifestazioni internazionaliste al fianco della Palestina hanno mostrato chiaramente che i popoli e i giovani non credono più ciecamente alla propaganda dei nostri governi occidentali, che si riconoscono nella lotta di liberazione nazionale e sono più che pronti a mettersi in gioco con spirito internazionalista. Sono stato un passaggio fondamentale in cui i giovani di tutto il mondo hanno lottato per una causa comune, per la solidarietà tra i popoli e contro l'imperialismo di Stati Uniti e Israele. Un nuovo segnale è arrivato anche dagli scioperi studenteschi di massa contro la leva militare in Germania. I giovani in guerra non ci vogliono andare. Non ci arruoliamo. Rifiutiamo la guerra e saremo sempre al fianco di quei popoli che subiscono gli attacchi dell'imperialismo nel tentativo di forgiare il proprio futuro. È giunto il momento di organizzarci a livello internazionale per dare una degna risposta alle classi dominanti che vogliono portarci in guerra e per affrontare direttamente la NATO e l'Unione Europea. Per questo siamo qui oggi in questa assemblea così piena e per questo è necessario costruire un percorso duraturo di confronto e di collaborazione anche pratica tra i giovani in tutta Europa. Noi non ci arruoliamo, è il titolo di questa assemblea, ma deve essere lo slogan della gioventù che rifiuta la guerra e di un percorso di mobilitazione congiunta e coordinata a livello internazionale, da costruire attraverso il continuo confronto aperto e onesto tra organizzazioni sull'analisi e sugli obiettivi da perseguire. Dobbiamo metterci in condizione, come giovani, di affrontare i tentativi di reintroduzione della leva militare e tutte le sfide che l'oggettività ci presenterà. Il prossimo 8 maggio, nell'anniversario della fine della Seconda Guerra Mondiale, potremo fare un primo passaggio. Scendiamo in piazza in tutta Europa per gridare che non vogliamo essere trascinati nuovamente in guerra. Ancora una volta. Ancora una volta da una coalizione genocida e ancora una volta per gli interessi del grande capitale europeo e occidentale. Celebriamo la vittoria della guerra da parte della gloriosa Armata Rossa, dei partigiani e dei paesi alleati. Rifiutiamo i tentativi di cancellare quella data da parte dell'Unione Europea e anzi rendiamola viva come il giorno in cui i giovani europei si mobilitano uniti contro la leva, il riarmo e la militarizzazione. E a questo punto passo la parola a Action gegen Krieg und Militarisierung.
Okay, hello. I'm from Perspektive Kommunismus, which is a German-wide revolutionary organization. Can you hear me? So we are an organization that is revolutionary German-wide, and we are trying to bring together different struggles like anti-war, feminist organization, anti-fascism, and worker struggles. In all these, we try to bring together a coherent and active revolutionary movement and express the possibility of a socialist revolution. Sorry, this is not on the
Hello, I'm Laura from In Action Against War and Militarization, a Munich-based group being active against war and militarization. We're an independent group. This is oriented on the strategic and political thesis of perspective communism, which is why we're doing this input together. So. Dear friends, dear comrades, the theme of this conference is war on war. Last year in Germany, the Disarm Rheinmetall camp, a large protest camp against war and rearmament, was banned by the police even before it began. Among other things, the justification was that we at AKM had mobilized people for the camp using the slogan "War on War," and that declaring war on war had an unpeaceful character. The police found this threatening and promptly declared a ban. We weren't really surprised. The ban was an expression of a trend we've observed in recent years in Germany and throughout Europe. While the countries of Western imperialism are acting ever more aggressively outwardly, they are simultaneously cracking down ever more repressively on any resistance within. In Germany, over the past 4 years, we have seen how the once cherished principle of free speech has been increasingly restricted at a rapid pace, and how the crackdown on any opposition has become ever more brutal. This was particularly evident in the German state's crackdown again on resistance to the genocide in Palestine. Anyone who called the genocide by its name was banned from public discourse. Artists had their funding withdrawn, performances cancelled, and television presenters fired. Conferences were stormed by the police and forcibly dispersed. Demonstrations were banned. Anyone who showed solidarity with the resistance against genocide had to expect violent police action. In Augsburg, activists' homes were searched because they had described resistance against colonial occupation by the Israeli state as fundamentally legitimate on laminated leaflets. An important tool of the state in this process was racial division. This is because restrictions on free speech were enforced according to a racist principle. German citizens face a fine for uttering a banned slogan. For people without a German passport, the same offense can mean deportation. In Berlin, a man was even stripped of his German citizenship as punishment for a social media post. All these measures succeeded in creating a climate of fear and, for quite some time, in giving the impression that the majority of society supported Germany's endorsement of the genocide. Politicians are now using very similar methods to crack down on resistance to rearmament and war readiness. Students are being taken to court for making fun of officers' lectures at their school in memes. It's being banned to display the Soviet Union flag near memorial sites on May the 8th, on Liberation Day, because this allegedly would endorse the war in Ukraine. And yet, demonstrations against rearmament are banned or violently broken up. All of this shows what the national we is made of, the very thing that we are now expected by the will of the political establishment to defend with weapons in hand. And it shows the significance of resistance against war. For those in power, who are willing to go such length to avoid hearing any resistance to their imperialist policies, and also for us. For time and again, we have also seen how resistance can render repression ineffective. The Disarm Rheinmetall camp took place last year despite the ban, because hundreds of people refused to be deterred and traveled there anyway. And when a court finally overturned the ban, the camp had not been cancelled, but it had already begun. The police's attempt to spread fear among protesters during the school strikes against conscription by arresting individual students and filing charges against them for allegedly offensive posters can also be considered a failure. The slogan "Lick Ballsmerz," for which a student was arrested and charged, was subsequently repeated and spread by so many students that the whole country now knows what Merz should do with his balls, according to some pupils. When those in power try to criminalize resistance to rearmament, the only thing that helps is even more resistance, even more collective, even more united, even more visible.
The important thing to remember is this: merely declaring oneself against war, in theory, is not enough. We must take practical action against it. And not in some distant future, but when we ourselves might be sent to the front lines or when the bombs are falling on Western Europe, but right now. Because right now, efforts are underway to build up military capabilities, thereby paving the way for war. We can actively work against this. Our comrade has just spoken at length about repression and the climate of fear it creates, the feeling of standing powerless before a powerful state. It is this feeling that those in power aim to instill, and it is this feeling that allows them to so openly prepare for war, in which the population has nothing to gain. This feeling can be broken through practical action. And not just for oneself, but for countless others, because every successful act of resistance against war shows that it is possible to act. And here I might add, just like the action that some people in the Czech Republic took yesterday, I think, when they burned down Elbit Systems facility. In recent years, there have been actions and mobilizations in many European countries that have been an inspiration to us in Germany, giving us courage and strength. When here in Italy, the entire country went on strike to protest the genocide in Palestine, or when the UK activists from Palestine Action effectively destroyed war factories. And there has been resistance here as well. Just 2 weeks ago, here meaning in Germany, just 2 weeks ago, nearly 55,000 students in Germany went on strike against conscription. Despite all the repression which is escalating across Europe, and despite slander and threats, there are still thousands upon thousands of people who are prepared to take practical actions against rearmament and preparations for war. Nevertheless, we will have to brace ourselves for a tougher crackdown on left-wing movements. This means we must protect ourselves and our structures. Experience shows that the shift towards a repressive authoritarian state can happen very quickly and unexpectedly. It is both possible and necessary for us to relearn how to deal with repression, police violence and intimidation, and to develop tactics to counter them, on the streets, in court, and wherever we are active. International networking can also be important in this regard, because the police methods currently being used in Germany will likely soon spread to other European countries as well. For years, the German police have been offering training courses to authorities in other countries on how to suppress demonstrations as effectively as possible. Repressive authorities exchange information and adopt effective methods from one country to another. In the same way, we can also learn from another to stay one step ahead of them. History has shown us that it is possible to end wars from below. By stopping the fight against the people of another country and starting the fight against one's own ruling class. Russia's participation in World War I was ended by the October Revolution. Germany's participation in World War I was ended in the November Revolution. When these wars began, those who opposed them were only a small minority, isolated and seemingly powerless. Less than 5 years later, it was these same people around whom the revolution coalesced. For us as opponents of war, this means not letting ourselves be discouraged by slander and repression, nor by the sense of the state's overwhelming power. What we are doing may seem small today, but it could be decisive in the future. This makes this conference, the coming together of young people and the anti-militarist movement from across Europe, all the more important. And to come back to the beginning of this input, this year again we will be holding the Disarm Rheinmetall Entwaffnen Camp action days in Cologne. We don't know if the police tries to ban it again, but we know for sure that we will be there. And we invite you all to join us there. Turbulent times lie ahead, but let us stand together, and thank you all for being here today.
Sorry. So, now is the turn of OSA, Opposizione Studentesca d'Alternativa.
Farò l'intervento in inglese, quindi first of all, I think we should greet and salute the comrades that came here today. It's a beautiful moment. It's a historical moment. We can stop the war led by USA imperialism, European Union imperialism, and we must do it together, as the comrades say, because this is the only way to stop the war led by the ruling class. So it's very important to stay here together. The USA, the NATO, the European Union, the Israel are leading the war all over the world. You can see it every day, every time. And now we can stop it by unifying ourselves, unifying. This is important to strengthen our struggle in the country where we live, where we fight, but among all European youth. So this is very important, and it's a historic moment. We should be proud of what we're doing today in Milan, but we can do it all over in all Europe. So it's very important to stay here. As OSA, Opposizione Studentesca Alternativa, we are organizing students in school age 14 to 19. We see that schools are being militarized. We do not want to see the army or military in our class. We do not want to see them in the school. School is a place for education, for being a better life for the students, and we do not want to see. We have a common task. We have to keep out of the school the propaganda war. School cannot allow this, and we can do it together. It's important to say that the war is fought by the working class, but it's wanted by the ruling class. There is a project in Italy called Alternanza Scuola-Lavoro, which basically means a collaboration between companies, private companies, and school, and this is it's a very bad thing. This is used to exploit the young student, but it's also used to put the war into the school. Everyone knows Leonardo, the military companies from Italy, which work all over Europe, and this is something that says a lot, because the schools are being used to private companies to exploit the students and to prepare them to the war. So we cannot accept private companies. The school must be public, and this is something that we must do together, because it's very, very important. It's not only something material, but it's ideological war. The ruling class are waging a cognitive and ideological war to put the war inside the mind of the students. And we're seeing this in Italy. We have, as we already said, a fascist government led by Giorgia Meloni, which was always was a fascist. And now we see that they're doing everything they can to put the war as something that must be celebrated, must be part of the common sense of the people. For example, Meloni government put important celebration in the November 4th. Maybe you can know this by searching it on Google. It's the day of First World War for Italy. We do not want to celebrate the war or Italian chauvinism, because we are together as people of Europe and all the world. We have a lot to say, but we want to say only one last topic, which is very important for us. Sorry, I drink. It's important. In Italy, we're talking about school as a cage. What we see every day is that the school is not able to emancipate the working class. This is a very big problem because a lot of young students see the school as useless because they go to school, but then they have no future. They feel that they will not have no perspective on his way, and this is a very bad thing that we must face together. This is allowing the government, the fascists all over Europe to put more repression on the school, more militarization, and it's something that we must face. Many young people are dropping out of school, and we think that this is represent the crisis of the Western capitalism. We think that we must fight together against war, of course, but against this type of school that we call school as a cage, and fight for a new public school. We live it's true, as the comrade said before, we live in very difficult times. We have in front of us war, we have in front of us right-wing all over Europe and all over the world. We have in front of us many challenges, but we can face it together. We think that in 8th May, we must have a big, important mobilization all over Europe. What you're doing in Germany is great. We sing in Italy, we sing all over Europe, because we can do a big and mass struggle against war, against military conscription, and we can do it in 8th May all together. So let's do it together. It's difficult, but we can do it. Thank you.
Now, the word to Jeunesse Communiste.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to warmly thank the comrades of Cambiare Rotta and OSA for welcoming us here in Milan. For welcoming us here in Milan and making this initiative happen. Thank you to everyone present, to the activists and comrades from all across Europe. It is together, through these gatherings, that we build this international solidarity that our class needs. My name is Sarah, and I'm talking on behalf of the Communist Youth, the Jeunesse Communiste, which is a Marxist-Leninist youth organization present in more than 50 cities in France. Our organization is young. We came from the movement of Young Communists of France, which was allied to the Communist Party of France. But we established ourselves as an independent organization last summer because we observed that the PCF and its youth movement are no longer capable of organizing the working class. They have become bureaucratic apertures, subverting to electoral logics and alliances with social democracy, which regularly betrays social struggles. We chose to rebuild a Marxist-Leninist youth organization, a class tool for fight and for to train Marxist-Leninist theory and roots in working class neighborhoods. Allow me to briefly recall the French context, as many of you are not familiar with our political forces. The Rassemblement National, which is the main far-right party, was founded in 1972 by former Waffen-SS members and Vichy collaborators. It is trying to whitewash itself today, but its program remains one of racism, xenophobia, and social policy serving big businesses. Its rise is a symptom of the crisis of capitalism and the failure of institutional left. Facing it, La France Insoumise is today the most left-wing social democratic party, and it carries an anti-racist discourse and solidarity with the Palestinian people and embodies opposition within the institutions. We maintain a relationship of critical support with them. We salute their role in resisting the far right and Macronism, but we know that change will not come from the election alone. We participated 2 days ago in Lille in La France Insoumise rally. In this city, the Insoumise candidate, Lawaria Adouche, a working-class woman from an immigrant background, came second in the elections, just behind the Socialist Party and the Greens, who carry a right-wing program, an anti-social program. This is an example of how this right social democracy prefers to ally with right-wing ideas rather than let a genuine popular voice prevail. At this rally, more than 3,000 people gathered to support the candidate and filled enormous halls because she alone embodies the clear struggle against fascism and racism. This breakthrough by La France Insoumise comes in a context of fascisation of the French society. For months, La France Insoumise has been the target of slanderous accusation to demonize it, notably through accusation of anti-Semitism or apology for terrorism for supporting Palestine, even though their position is not even that radical as they demand a two-state solution. Meanwhile, the French state protects and conceals the persecution, violence, and murder committed by its police against undocumented people and those from immigrant backgrounds. At the same time, they tolerate the violence and crime committed by the fascist groups, nothing surprising since they later attack the same people. This racist violence is inherited from French colonial history and continues through the repression of the 2024 revolts in Kanaki, a French colony where several people were shot by the French colonial forces. The leader of the movement suffered ruthless repression, and several of them were arrested and incarcerated. Here, we see a criminalization of anti-colonial resistance, but in France, there is also a criminalization of the anti-fascist struggle. We do not forget the death of Quentin de Ranc, a 20-year-old fascist who died after setting up an ambush against anti-fascists and losing the fight that he and his group of fascists initiated. A media storm descended on the anti-fascists, notably the Jeune Garde, and about a dozen anti-fascists are currently in pretrial detention. We give them our full and unconditional support. In the National Assembly in France, left-wing and right-wing deputies observed a minute of silence to honor this neo-Nazi militant, a first since the Vichy regime. His portrait was displayed in front of official state buildings and has become the symbol justifying the criminalization of popular self-defense, which all parts of the bourgeoisie democracy have condemned. All of this shows the limits of the bourgeois democracy. As important as the elections are, they will not be enough to overthrow the system. That is why our priority remains the development of the communist organization all across Europe, the training of cadres, and the building of a mass movement capable of carrying forward the class struggle and solidarity with oppressed people from the center of imperialism. We have launched our first national campaign, which is called Globalize the Intifada, because we believe that the world is shifting, that capitalism is reaching its end, that resources are running out, that inequalities are exploding. In Palestine, the genocide continues before our eyes, made possible by the impotence of the international community, that is, by the active complicity of imperialist powers. Everywhere, the ruling class chooses the fascist option and relies on war to resolve the crisis of capitalist system. In this first month, in line with our campaign, we have focused our activity on discussion and events in solidarity with the resistance of oppressed people, as well as developing our ties with organizations most directly and severely targeted by the racist violence of the state. In Lille, In Lille, we go every week to the demonstration of the Undecommitted Workers Committee, which remarkably has held in all weathers and all contexts for over 30 years. In Paris, we participate in marches organized by the collective demanding justice and solidarity for the victims of police violence. The most recent was organized following the unpunished murder of El Hassan Diarra by police in northern Paris district, while he was out smoking in front of his residence. A national demonstration in which all of our section participated was held last weekend against fascism, racism, and violence of the state. Since the beginning of the year, we have also been getting closer to collectives formed by the Latin American diaspora to support them against the latest imperialist attack on Venezuela, Mexico, and Cuba, and their demand for real independence from the United States. Tension over the control of energy and strategic resources are rising everywhere. Red Sea, Ukraine, Sahel, Pacific. Palestine is not distant. It concerns us here in Europe because companies in Europe directly arm and finance genocides. We are aware of the new phase of the imperialism in which we find ourselves today. The expression of a power relationship that is not overt and assumed as much. The neoliberal myth of a peace guaranteed by a free, self-regulating, globalized markets rested on a consensus built on the monetary, economic, and military domination of a single power, the United States. However, China's industrialization at a pace never before equaled and its ability to effectively develop its area of expertise have called American hegemony into question. Countries of the global South The countries of the global South are building alternatives while relying on this new power. That is we see notably through the desire of bypassing the dollar by establishing the BRIC Plus payment system, which allows countries to trade using their own currency. This new infrastructure gives country a choice, and the choice is precisely what destabilizes an hegemonic system. Collectively, the movements made by this country make a difference. The US, aware of moving from hegemony to decline, reveals its true face. Behind a supposed common good lie only its only national capitalist interest. The economic war waged by the United States against China is intensifying. The United States seeks to weaken its rival by attacking countries that are allies and trading partners, specifically those with strategic interests like rare minerals or natural resources. In these recent weeks, the United States have clearly expressed its desire to update the Monroe Doctrine and concentrate the forces of the American continent. They consider their enterprise of controlling the Middle East complete and intend to focus on Latin America. The attack carried out jointly with Israel against Iran constitutes the final stage in the US strategy of redefining the map in the region so as to replace Iran's influence with their Israeli proxy. As the intervention in Venezuela as well as the strengthening of the blockade on Cuba are the beginning of an offensive across the entire Latin American continent aimed at crushing all efforts and hopes for independence. These two countries, through the history of their revolution, of their socialist model, and their resistance, represent an alternative model for Latin America against US predation. Our role from the center of the imperialism is to build solidarity with them. It's to support them unconditionally in their struggle today and to organize solidarity campaigns more than ever. This is why we demand the immediate release of Silvia Flores and Maduro. And we demand the end of the blockade on Cuba. This is not only a crisis of the American hegemony, it is a part of a broader crisis of the entire capitalist system faced by crisis. This bourgeoisie find alternatives. It's either fascism or war. Mobilization for a war involving European citizens is a possibility that is taking increasingly real shape, and that is why we are gathered here today. The state The state budget has become the weapon of the bourgeoisie class to finance nuclear submarines, fighter jets, and missiles. Hospitals are closed, schools are gutted, teaching and healthcare positions are eliminated. The militarization is not neutral. It's a class war, it's a racist war, it's a sexist war. Emmanuel Macron in France talked to us about the universal national service. Then he's now talking about Defense and Citizenships Day, and now about voluntary military service. They even mention paid military service, but who will go there? Not the children of the grand bourgeoisie, but the child of the working class. The child that will be the young people from our class, those who have no other choice, those who are promised a salary to go train to kill and die for the profits of the weapon shareholders. At the same time, police and army are sent into our working class neighborhoods. They are calling it maintaining order. We call it a racist police of repression. The riots after Nile's death in 2023 showed us this reality. Armored vehicles in the housing projects, point-blank shots, children beaten. The republic that they called the Republic of Human Rights has become the republic militarized against its own youth. The example of Nile Merzouk shows this very well. This 17-year-old teenager was killed point-blank by a police officer during traffic stop in Nanterre. This video of this execution went all around the world. What happened next is emblematic. In the day that followed, these riots broke out in more than 60 municipalities all over France, in an explosion of popular anger. The government then answered with more than 45,000 members of law enforcement with armored vehicles, rubber bullet shots, and helicopters. The toll, more than 1,000 injured and thousands of arrested and 2 additional deaths during these repressions. But it gets worse, as recently, in March 2026, the Versailles Court of Appeals rendered a decision that sums up everything we denounce. The police officer who murdered this child will not be tried for murder, but for violence resulting in the death without intention to cause it. The militarization also affects women in the front lines. Demographic rearmament, they told us. This technocratic term, harmed by Macron and all of his majority, hides a brutal reality. The bourgeoisie needs cannon fodder. It needs young people to fill the barracks to feed the imperialist war machine. But to have soldiers, you first have to manufacture them. And who is in charge of manufacturing them? It's always the women. Demographic rearmament is the state's will to reduce women's body to a reproduction tool, a factory for producing future soldiers. This policy is not new. It's drawn from the old recipe of fascism. The state encourages birth rates, not out the concerns for family well-being, but to swell the ranks of its army. They glorify the mother of large families. They multiply speeches about the defense of the traditional family, and at the same time, the closed maternity wards in working-class neighborhoods, gut sexual health services, make difficult access to abortion and contraception more difficult. It's a double violence. They control women's body by assigning them to reproduction, and then they use the children thus brought into the world to send them to war. Working class women are there in order to produce the labor forces to cannon fodder that capitals need, while their own rights and health are sacrificed in the altar of military profits. Demographic rearmament is therefore also a sexist policy. It is the bourgeoisie state's will to control all of us. We communists say no. Women's body belong neither to the state nor to the capital. They are not a factory for manufacturing soldiers for imperialist war. The right to control one's body, to abortion, to contraception is a fundamental conquest that we defend tooth and nails. We will not let the bourgeoisie instrumentalize our bodies and our lives for its war machine. we are at war. That is what Macron said in 2020 during the COVID-19 epidemic. The French president took advantage of this crisis to try to create a feeling of patriotic resilience and national consolidation, and develop a warlike lexicon glorify of common fights. As communists, we know that such a fight does not exist. The crisis is not experienced the same way depending on whether you are a worker, a nurse, a student, or in contrary, a boss, an investor, or a president. The use of this lexical field is a part of the psychological influence that they try to put on us, and is specifically aimed to the youth. Yet, it is among this same segment of the population, the young, precarious, and racialized, that the unemployment rates are the highest for capitalism. For capitalism, unemployment is a tool to keep wages low and lower expectation regarding working class condition. It is today this same reserves of army of workers that unemployment allows to constitute that is targeted for enrollment in military services and thus integration into the future national army. Indeed, the military service promotional campaigns focus their communication on relatively simple integration pathways, attractive salaries, and job security. That is what is lacking from all other spheres of the labor market. The French state wants the enlistment of youth in the army by presenting it as the only alternative to their ever-increasing misery. We say forcefully, committing to die for the fatherland is not a choice and is nothing like a life situation. We will not enlist. For these reasons, we demand the dissolution of the European Union, a bourgeoisie institution serving colonial interests, as well as NATO, the armed wing of the United States. The only solution for the youth of our class is organization. We will be our own army. Our fight will always be the one of the life and the protection of a future freed from misery and exploitation. Death to NATO, long live the socialist youth!
So next, we'll leave the word to Young Struggle.
Dear comrades, as Young Struggle Europe, we warmly greet you, all the workers, the youth, the anti-fascists, the revolutionaries, all those that came here today in order to discuss our future, in order to discuss how we will take the world into our own hands. I also want to greet all political prisoners currently struggling against imperialism and capitalism from within the prison walls in Palestine, Kurdistan, Hungary, here in Europe, everywhere. Those prisoners are our honor, and they are the reason that hope still stands upright. Dear comrades, I want to get to the point quickly. Today we will have a practical discussion. Today we want to talk about ways in which we can go beyond our current work, in which we can go beyond the current mobilizations we have done so far and organize a new quality and an anti-war youth movement across Europe. This is what it comes down to, and I want to express our determination as Young Struggle Europe to take such a step together. Let our words not remain empty, but filled with practical experiences from today on. Because why is this assembly a necessity? Because it is a necessity in a time where imperialist aggression is at an all-time high, where we are confronted with the severe likelihood of a third world war taking place not just in our lifetime, but in the very near future. It is a necessity because we are the children of the so-called end of history, the 90s and the 2000s, where the ruling class declared that socialism had ended, that capitalism was unshakable, that we will have to always live this reality, and that there's no alternative to the exploited and oppressed in this world. But we say no. The contradictions between the poor and the rich, between the exploited and the exploiter, between the imperialist center and the colonized nations heighten. Where we have no perspective besides poverty or death, it is a necessity to form a youth movement which is able to stop wars of the imperialists from the belly of the beast and fight for a new future from Europe. Dear comrades, today we are confronted with a capitalist system that has globalized and a system which is not regular but in an existential crisis. No more national closed markets, a global flow of capital which is building international monopoles, bringing forth people such as Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, and with it more and more contradictions between these international monopoles. Today, China and the US stand face to face in the question of hegemony over this global market, and this has to be, and the question of hegemony is reopened. For the monopole bourgeoisie, there's no way to solve this but war, and no other way to keep the workers and the oppressed from sabotaging their war than from building and utilizing fascist terror. They are stuck in a crisis of accumulation, and as my comrades already said, mass unemployment rises. And so on the other hand, as the capitalists globalize, we also see that the global production chain is a reality in this moment of history. Workers today participate in the labor for a single product across the globe. A car is produced not only in one country, but from Congo to China to East Germany, we have factories that send each other parts, workers working on the same product. So the crisis of capitalism that we are in currently results in one important symptom for us. While the social basis of the bourgeoisie is shrinking because they get richer and richer, the social basis of the proletariat around the world is growing. The rich are getting richer, the poorer get poorer. Petit bourgeoisie is also proletarizing in this moment. This means that today the working class can become an anchor that unites the oppressed around its program, and the youth can become an explosive vessel for societal change in a struggle against capitalism. It means from women, LGBTI+, to students and migrants, the objective basis for uprisings are growing, and it's showing across the world. Within this crisis, regional wars are also escalating, and I want to talk about this a little bit more. Especially the Middle East is a hub of trade routes and resources needed by the US strategically to challenge Russian and with the Chinese hegemony in the region. The development in the Middle East will be key in the next stages of the development to this world war. Since the 7th of October, the US has been doing the following. First, investing in a genocide in Palestine in order to strengthen Israel as a proxy in the region. Then taking Syria with the HTS regime in December 2024 in order to then encircle Iran and breaking the axis of resistance. While the US is moving against Iran, it plans to make Kurdistan the center of its aggression by liquidating its revolutionary forces and keeping its four parts separate and under its colonial division. Why? Because Rojava and the revolutionary movements in other parts of Kurdistan refuse to bend to the will of the US and become a puppet in the region. The tactical military alliance brought to life in the struggle against Daesh, against the so-called Islamic State, has ended. This is declared as well by the US and also in Rojava. And everyone that calls it a collaboration with US imperialism does not understand the reality of revolutionary struggle and the organization of oppressed, even in this moment of time. And as the US is mobilizing not only the Islamist HTS, but also Turkey, the second henchman in the US in the region, to move against Rojava in accordance with its own expansionist, colonialist, and fashionist dreams. Why is this important to us? Because the waves of aggression against Venezuela, Cuba, and the Middle East also unlock a revolutionary potential around the world. Especially Kurdistan and its four parts, all colonized by regional powers, has a potential to unleash a regional revolution if it managed to create new alliances with the many peoples of the Middle East, with the working classes also of the colonizing nations, be it Iran, Turkey, Iraq, and Syria. In this time, it is not utopist, but the reality that a third way of the oppressed exists. As youth from Europe, we have a responsibility in front of the oppressed people, the women, LGBTI+, and workers, to side with this third way. The struggle for self-determination is a core principle of Marxism-Leninism, and we hold on to it from Palestine to Kurdistan, Intifada Serhildan. Out of this characterization of the situation today, these two needs occur for youth movement and for us here today. First, an importance for our struggle to internationalize. Second, an importance to build alliances between the oppressed. If we look at what has mobilized parts of the youth in the past years in Europe, it has been a struggle against war and genocide, especially in solidarity with Palestine. We have gathered experiences of mass movements, uprising, blockades of universities, ports, schools, the flotilla, and in many European countries, migrant youth has been at the forefront of this. What is the main lesson that we draw from this? International solidarity against imperialist wars is a concrete material reality. It is a component of the resistance and of the peoples of the world. I hereby also want to salute the dock workers here from Italy who organized the strike. In your strike, you have shown that the class struggle is alive, that the class struggle is a component of the resistance here, also for the resistance happening in the anti-colonial struggles. Similarly, if we look at the offensive on Rojava in January, we also see that the international wave of protests, in addition to the general mobilization of the self-administration against the US-backed Islamist militias of the HDS, have brought a different situation. A new contract had been reached, a new situation has been reached. So international solidarity is not just a moral empty phrase, it is a reality. Anti-war struggle is therefore in its core an internationalist struggle, not out of moral solidarity, but as a concrete reality that is related to the production chains that wrap around the world. As experiences has shown, if port strikers, if industry is halted, if millions take to the street, a situation is changed. The solidarity of the oppressed is a strategic necessity and not a side fact, but an integral reality of anti-war movement. As youth in Europe, our anti-war praxis is therefore not a fence only on the fence to military conscription, but a core revolutionary task to defend those revolutionary centers currently in the world that uphold resistance from Kurdistan, Palestine, Philippines, India, Colombia, all those that use all means of resistance currently and stand up to imperialism. I want to make one last mark for a discussion. As Young Struggle Europe, active in 5 different countries in Europe, our analysis shows there's not one united European bourgeoisie. There, of course, are different national interests and contradicting questions of hegemony. However, with the way of the ruling classes organize itself in this region, it gives an important basis for us to come together as working class and youth and similarly organize across the region. Some countries might introduce conscription, some might already have it, but in a globalized world, regional centers of resistance where experiences are shared is a strategic need we have today. So, today is about bringing together experiences and taking practical steps from it. With this assembly, we want to take first steps in letting waves of youth mobilization sweep across Europe. You've talked about the 55,000 students in Germany going to the street. This was a starting point, but it will only be a starting point if we act now, because this movement will die down if revolutionaries do not intervene and make it consistent, make it dynamic, and build continuity. This is our task today, because otherwise, I'm sure the next school strike in Germany will not count 55,000 students. So what should we do, dear comrades? As Young Struggle Europe, we think that we need a youth movement that is dynamic, that is consistent, and ready to gain new experiences. We welcome the proposal for the youth strike on the 8th of May. We want to salute the Red Army because the 8th of May is an anti-fascist struggle day. It is a day where we remember our history of struggle as socialists, as communists. So I want to salute the Red Army. Let us expand on this. Let us expand under the slogan, War on War. Let us build a Europe-wide coordinated style of organizing, which not only echoes across the West in Europe, but also reaches the students in Serbia and Poland, and Greece reaches the working class in Greece and Serbia and other countries. Even if the attacks of the ruling class might differ in their character around shared principles, we should call for regular youth strikes. Even if one country has conscription and one another not, we can build strikes across Europe. Work in schools, in universities, but also with young workers can be developed through a strong mobilization that gives us a basis to build strike committees wherever we are. Just as the Fridays for Future campaign gained momentum a few years ago, we now have the task to build a class-conscious and well-organized movement that can take new steps. One movement that knows that we are the ones that will lead a youth that knows who the ruling class is, that knows the historic role, and that will accomplish the historic role. We will be present on G7 in the coming months. We also will be present on the camps Rheinmetall and Waffen that the comrades from AKM already mentioned, and we will organize within Guerra la Guerre. This is also where this campaign should extend to and be wherever the youth comes together. If a fire is lit somewhere, a successful strike organized, it can light a hose for other countries. We must organize the coordination of this and be the platform on which this movement can grow. The time we have is short. As youth, we have a historic role to play because, as Rosa Luxemburg said, it's either socialism or barbarism. Let us be ambitious, let us be optimistic, because this is all we have in mind. I wish us all success for a better future, for a new world. It is on us to make our own history. And as the Kurdish New Year commences, I wish everyone Nevros Peros be Serkeftin.
We now leave the floor to Gazze, coordinadora socialista.
Vale, muy buenas a todos y muchas gracias por la oportunidad de hacer esta intervención. La verdad es que da gusto ver la sala llena de militantes de todos los rincones de Europa. Nosotros venimos desde Euskal Herria y somos militantes de GKS, una organización juvenil comunista que pertenece al movimiento socialista de Euskal Herria. Somos una organización de masas, cuya función es organizar y politizar a los jóvenes de la clase trabajadora en términos revolucionarios. Una organización de masas comunista con el objetivo de trabajar para la reconstrucción de grandes partidos comunistas, la fase previa a la revolución socialista. Tras esta breve introducción, el objetivo de la intervención será aterrizar todos estos conceptos y objetivos a la realidad en la que vivimos hoy en día, la cual queremos transformar. Para ello, primeramente expondremos un análisis coyuntural para identificar las tendencias mayoritarias del capitalismo, a las que tendremos que hacer frente. Después, trataremos de explicar qué retos políticos tenemos por delante y bajo qué principios políticos debemos de organizarnos bajo nuestra opinión. Y finalmente expondremos mediante experiencias propias la posibilidad de abrir un espacio político revolucionario que, lejos de ser marginal, contribuye en la reconstrucción del poder proletario y la construcción de la alternativa socialista. Vale. El análisis de coyuntura tendrá dos ejes. Por un lado, el fascismo y la reacción, y por otro lado, la escalada bélica y el imperialismo. La coyuntura histórica actual, determinada por la crisis estructural de la sociedad capitalista, una crisis que tiene carácter histórico. La crisis histórica del capital y la caída global de las tasas reales de acumulación están animando a las oligarquías a la ofensiva económica contra los pueblos trabajadores del mundo. Las grandes potencias son igualmente arrastradas a posiciones de escalada bélica por el control de unos recursos cada vez más escasos, de los grandes ecosistemas productivos, de las grandes rutas de comercio global, etc. La crisis histórica del capital a nivel global, que viene implosionando desde principios de siglo, entronca en Occidente con la decadencia imperial del atlantismo, o dicho de otra manera, con la específica crisis económica y social occidental, donde Europa aparece como vanguardia de la decadencia imperial atlantista, sin proyecto político y social propio. En las sociedades occidentales, donde la crisis se junta con la pérdida de centralidad imperial en el tablero global, se viene produciendo un gran desgarro social tras largas décadas de composición de clase, donde el proletariado venía representando una minoría relativa frente a las amplias capas acomodadas de la aristocracia obrera y la pequeña burguesía. La destrucción de las condiciones de vida está provocando la fractura del imaginario social de clases medias en estas capas. Aristocracia obrera y pequeña burguesía habían consolidado tras largas décadas de estabilidad imperial y tiene consecuencias directas en la cultura, la ideología y la visión política de las clases medias. El auge de la reacción. Y es que en ausencia de toda política consciente organizada, de un gran educador de masas como lo fueron en su día los grandes partidos marxistas, el movimiento cultural de las clases medias gira completamente en la dirección opuesta, hacia las posiciones más extremas de la ideología burguesa en forma de reacción. La oligarquía, a su programa de ofensiva económica, le añade un programa de ofensiva política y cultural. Este programa lo articula la oligarquía atlantista en tres ejes: ideológico, político y estatal, lo que hace del fascismo actual un fenómeno más complejo de lo que nos pretende convencernos la política profesional burguesa con sus hipócritas cordones sanitarios. En lo ideológico, la apuesta de la oligarquía es convertir a la clase media de izquierdas y de derechas, mermada pero aún políticamente activa, en una clase reaccionaria, que apuntale las políticas autoritarias y ejerza influencia cultural sobre el proletariado a través de sus mecanismos hegemónicos, cerrando en falso toda opción de política revolucionaria. En lo político, observamos la articulación progresiva de este fenómeno ideológico en posiciones más radicalizadas en forma de nuevo movimiento fascista. Un movimiento que se compone de tres fenómenos: los grandes partidos electorales de ultraderecha, que sirven de palanca mediática e institucional; la recomposición de organizaciones fascistas para la formación de cuadros ideológicos y organizativos; y, en tercer lugar, la formación de grupos violentos a pie de calle. Como podemos observar, la generalización de los principios de la reacción en las bases sociales de los partidos tradicionales constituye la condición de posibilidad de la articulación de estas en un nuevo polo político como radicalización de la reacción, que a su vez sirve de palanca para la reforma hacia el Estado autoritario. En lo estatal, y lo que representa el culmen del programa atlantista Puertas hacia adentro, la oligarquía está tratando de implementar una reforma de gran calado, aniquilando el Estado democrático liberal y articulando un nuevo proyecto de Estado autoritario, donde el conjunto de la clase trabajadora es aniquilado como sujeto de derechos con el objetivo de levantar un muro ante la posible articulación futura del proletariado en forma de bloque revolucionario. De este modo, la oligarquía, con la inestimable ayuda de todo el arco parlamentario, va mereciendo la cuna del fascismo, a golpe de reforma legislativa, de avance de la impunidad policial y de propaganda militarista. Y estos mismos son los presupuestos del nuevo Estado autoritario. Y finalmente, no podríamos terminar sin mencionar la acentuación de la crisis bélica, la militarización de los estados y el imperialismo, los cuales son los motivos principales de las asambleas de hoy y mañana. Occidente vive un estancamiento de crecimiento económico y en esta situación, para asegurar una posición imperialista dominante que no puede asegurar a través de mecanismos de mercado, las distintas potencias han alcanzado una escalada bélica, con el OTAN a la cabeza. Condenamos firmemente la política exterior genocida yanqui, el bombardeo sin precedentes a Irán, el ataque a Venezuela, el intento de aniquilar mediante el bloqueo al pueblo cubano y, cómo no, el genocidio de Israel en Palestina. Desde aquí, Desde aquí nos solidarizamos con Cuba, Irán, Venezuela, Palestina y con toda la clase trabajadora golpeada por el más feroz imperialismo. Gracias.
En este panorama aparentemente desolador, necesitamos reflexionar sobre la tarea de las organizaciones revolucionarias. La generalización de la reacción es un proceso que no tiene vuelta atrás, en el cual anidan riesgos, pero también la apertura rupturista que ofrece la gran crisis del sistema político burgués. Y me refiero con esto a la quiebra política del modelo de partido reformista burgués en todas sus versiones, junto con el modelo de Estado liberal democrático. No es nuestra tarea reflotar estas formas políticas de la clase media imperialista, que han hecho la cama a la reacción y hoy observan impotentes, en muchos casos con mirada cómplice, su generalización. Nuestra tarea es la recomposición política del proletariado en forma de partido revolucionario de masas y la lucha por la transformación revolucionaria de la sociedad burguesa en crisis en una sociedad socialista y democrática. Y precisamente por esto debemos entender que el auge de la reacción nos impone una tarea general inmediata e ineludible. Esa tarea se puede resumir en convertirnos en cuña roja contra la reacción, no para reflotar a la izquierda burguesa, sino para sustituirla como frente de combate real contra el capitalismo ultra de extrema derecha y el fascismo del siglo XXI. Bajo nuestro punto de vista, debemos orientar este proceso en dos direcciones. En primer lugar, en términos de lucha ideológica, desenmascarando las patrañas del clasismo, del nacionalismo, del racismo, del machismo, de los discursos violentos, del blanqueamiento de los oligarcas, de los discursos imperialistas y belicistas, de los discursos contra la defensa de los ecosistemas y demás. Es imprescindible que consideremos la relevancia estratégica de la ideologización de masas contra la reacción capitalista y de encuadrar en la conciencia socialista el descontento social, especialmente en lo que respecta a las jóvenes generaciones proletarias. Eso significa dar la batalla en redes y en todos los espacios de influencia mediática de las ideas reaccionarias con una propaganda audaz y creando medios para ello. Significa, además, extremar la disciplina y la capacidad de movilización para que las organizaciones se conviertan en grandes plataformas de agitación social contra la reacción, con grandes movilizaciones y grandes campañas de agitación que lleguen a todos los sectores del proletariado. En segundo y último lugar, frente al fascismo de calle y frente a la deriva autoritaria de los estados y el crecimiento de las medidas autoritarias de extrema derecha, incluida la nueva política belicista del imperialismo, es imprescindible generar alianzas de clase con organizaciones revolucionarias y movimientos sociales para constituir un muro de autodefensa de las condiciones de lucha, de los derechos políticos y de la oposición a la guerra imperialista. Hay mucho en juego, mucho que perder, pero también mucho que ganar. Para finalizar, la intervención, haciendo un breve resumen de nuestra experiencia, quisiéramos exponer algunas conclusiones. Hace 6 años, apenas en nuestros comienzos, desde GKS publicábamos una extensa lectura de la situación de la pandemia. Afirmábamos ya entonces que este evento venía a acelerar unos procesos estructurales cuyos primeros indicios ya estábamos percibiendo. La crisis global capitalista, acompañada de la decadencia de Europa como bloque imperialista, habrían de venir acompañadas de una ofensiva política y económica de la burguesía, produciendo un proceso de proletarización cada vez mayor y una creciente reducción de los derechos políticos en los estados occidentales. La gestión burguesa de la pandemia era un catalizador, desgraciadamente no el único. Nuestra primera manifestación congregó a miles de jóvenes bajo el nada demagógico lema de «Paremos la dictadura directa de la burguesía». Cabe recordar cuál era el estado de la izquierda. Mientras nosotros hablábamos del creciente autoritarismo de los estados, la izquierda, en shock, se plegó a todos los designios de la oligarquía. A nivel estratégico, la izquierda aún se encontraba política y emocionalmente en el periodo del estado de bienestar y la posibilidad real de las políticas redistributivas. Para nosotros, el Estado volvía, sí, pero en su forma policial. Sin embargo, a nivel social aún era algo poco perceptible. En los años siguientes, el genocidio, las políticas de rearme, las intervenciones militares directas y los discursos fascistas desvergonzados eran ya parte de nuestra realidad política. Los procesos que bosquejábamos en 2020 se precipitaron en tan solo 5 años. La izquierda parlamentaria llevaba varias elecciones hablando de antifascismo sin que ello tuviera ninguna consecuencia ni en su política de alianzas ni en su propuesta estratégica. Mientras, miles de militantes nos preparábamos para organizar la primera línea de lucha contra el fascismo. Este era ya una realidad y a la vista de los acontecimientos, solo una fuerza de choque comunista habría de plantar cara al proyecto de la oligarquía. El marxismo es la herramienta que nos ha permitido ver y entender la realidad capitalista en su complejidad, con sus contradicciones y sus contratendencias. La izquierda parlamentaria ha dejado de utilizar el marxismo para entender el mundo y, en consecuencia, mira la realidad desde un marco construido en una excepcionalidad histórica, una excepción temporal y geográfica. Pero la posibilidad de un horizonte redistributivo sin necesidad de ruptura revolucionaria ya no existe. Las terceras vías no existen. No es tiempo de moderaciones. Es momento de oponer los únicos dos modelos que pueden enfrentarse mutuamente. O el proyecto de barbarie de la oligarquía o el proyecto de igualdad universal del comunismo. La oligarquía está financiando y promocionando los movimientos fascistas en todo el mundo, como punta de lanza para la aplicación de su modelo de Estado autoritario. La oposición a este proyecto debe articularse a todos los niveles. Oposición a los movimientos fascistas, combatirlos en la calle y no dejar que adquieran carta de normalidad. Oposición al proyecto de Estado autoritario, vengan de donde vengan este tipo de reformas. Oposición a la reacción cultural, creando una nueva moda antifascista entre la juventud trabajadora. Y eso es lo que hicimos hace 2 meses cuando miles y miles de jóvenes trabajadores nos movilizamos en las calles de Bilbao y de Pamplona. Es una lucha por el control de las calles y la moral general, y la vamos a ganar. En segundo lugar, demostremos que el comunismo puede ser una potencia de masas. No es un proyecto marginal, sino un proyecto que puede responder a las necesidades e inquietudes de la mayoría trabajadora. Muchas gracias.
So, with this, we have concluded the morning session, and I would like first and foremost to thank all of the people who spoke this morning, because it was a great discussion of a very high political level, of which we can go proud. And this is the first thing. I would also like to thank again all those who chose to participate to the whole day of, to the whole assembly of today. So now, after this moment of the morning, we will have a lunch break, and then we will have the open discussion with all other organizations from all over Europe who will participate in the discussion in the afternoon. So I would like already to thank all of the comrades who came here from all of Europe for this assembly, which is, I think, a very important step. It was many years since the last time an assembly such as this one was held, an international assembly with class characteristics, trying to build the alternative to this capitalist system we live in Europe on an international level, connecting organizations and struggles. I would like to do a chant. So, war, war on war. We do not enlist. 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 So, before I let you go, I give the floor to Dalia, who will say some details about lunch, which I think interests to everyone.
Allora, prima in italiano. Per il pranzo si va al banchetto in piazza dell'Ateneo Nuovo, da dove siete entrati tutti. Il pranzo consiste in 2 panini e una bottiglietta d'acqua. Prima di prendere i panini prendete il coupon e poi passate